Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Thinking Talks brought to you by the Martin Center. Today we are discussing the European integration of Moldova, and we have with us Cristina Gherasimov, Deputy Prime Minister for European Integration in Moldova. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me start by asking you to provide us with a bit of context about the integration process of Moldova. Republic of Moldova applied for EU membership in March 2022 and it obtained the candidacy status in June 2022. The formal accession negotiations started last year in June 2024. What are the current steps in the integration process?
Indeed, in 2022, we received candidate status, and that has opened up a lot of processes at home. We went through basically 9 recommendations of the Commission to then unlock the next steps. We got green light from the Council in December 2023 to start accession talks, and last summer in June in Luxembourg, we had the first intergovernmental conference. Since then, we're in the process of assessing where our legislation stands in terms of alignment with the European legislation. We are somewhere at the middle of this process, which is called the screening process. We have managed to go through 3 of the 6 clusters of the European acquis. And we're also in the process of preparation for opening already accession talks for Cluster 1. Our teams at home have managed to develop in quite an advanced stage the roadmaps, which are the opening benchmarks for Cluster 1. We're also in discussions towards finalizing our negotiating positions for Cluster 1. And we very much hope that the Council will soon invite us to submit the necessary following documents for the next steps, and that is particularly the opening of Cluster 1 for accession. We will finalize this intermittent step called the bilateral screening somewhere in autumn of this year. We have a very clear calendar developed by the European Commission. And meanwhile, of course, we work on reforms because transposition and implementation of the acquis for us are a key part of the process. We very much hope that by the end of this year, we would be able to have all clusters opened for negotiations. And our internal deadline to be ready for EU accession is 2030.
About reforms, the European Commission last fall proposed this growth plan for Moldova for 1.8 billion of euros. Can you give us more details about what this financial mechanism mean for the reform process, but also for the sectorial integration for Moldova, and how can benefit the country?
The growth plan is indeed the largest financial package that Moldova has ever received from the European Union. And for us, this is a signal of trust that we can spend them wisely in the benefit of strengthening and consolidating our economy. Moldova is in the process of developing a functioning market economy, and this money comes to help us underpin the necessary reforms that would lead us to fulfill that Copenhagen criteria in particular. In practical matters, that means big infrastructure projects, meaning interconnections, railway, be it bridges, transport, land, when it comes to our already existing connections with Europe, either directly via Romania or via Ukraine. We will also invest this money in social infrastructure, for instance, building additional hospitals in the north and in the south of the country, also building new nursing places so that we can bring into our economy the women who are now unable to join the labor market because of financial constraints when it comes to leaving their children in child care. We will also use part of that money to bring them into the reform agenda, basically the necessary steps to bring us to full alignment with the EU acquis. And this, of course, will gradually integrate us better into the internal market.
Indeed, you are speaking about what Moldova is doing now to help the population. But how do Moldovans see the European integration? What are their expectations regarding this process? What are their concerns about the integration of the country?
Moldovans are Europeans at heart and Europeans in action. We have held a referendum last autumn where we chose as a country our pro-European course to join the European Union. We have enshrined this strategic foreign policy goal in our constitution, and we very much look forward to working in this direction in the next years. At the same time, the pro-European narrative is very much undermined at home by disinformation and propaganda that is meant to instill uncertainty and fear about our European future. However, we work hard with our population in terms of better communicating about the European Union, about the benefits of joining the European Union, so that we can only further increase the support for our EU membership.
You were mentioning just now the threat of the Russian interference in the electoral process of Moldova. And I know that the Russian FIMI campaign is a serious threat for the Moldovan democracy. How can the EU help to make Moldova a better and more resilient country and to limit any Russian future interference in the parliamentary elections? Because I know that Moldova has parliamentary campaigns this year.
Indeed, the threat of electoral interference is very high. We have witnessed that during the presidential elections and the referendum that we held last year. And we always felt that we are 2 steps behind the Russian propaganda and disinformation. One very strong narrative is that by choosing the European Union, the Moldovans are actually choosing war upon themselves, because in the disinformation narratives, there are a lot of similarities brought to what happened to Ukraine, falsely inducing people to think that Ukraine was invaded by Russia because it chose its European path. So from this perspective, what we can do better together with the European Union institutions, with the member states, is to help better communicate with the citizens, not only in Moldova, but in the candidate countries, also in the member states, about the benefits of the European Union, to try to debunk the false narratives about the European Union. Because ultimately, the European Union was brought together as a project of peace, a project of prosperity, where democracy really lies at the core of everything that drives governmental action and by proving its support for its citizens. So here, what we can continue doing together is to work also on strengthening the cybersecurity around democratic exercises like the elections, also working on strengthening the regulations around social media communication, so that we limit altogether the impact that the social media as the main channels for propagating disinformation have on the minds of our citizens.
And about the parliamentary elections that Moldova will hold this second half of the year, if I'm not mistaken, how serious is the threat to have a majority of pro-Russian parties in the parliament that might block the European integration of the country? Can we fear a repeat of the Georgia scenario?
We cannot discard the Georgian scenario because fighting for democracy is an everyday fight, and it's very important not to relax because tools of disinformation, of electoral interference are constantly adapting. Moldova is a testing ground for electoral interference, and what proves to be good tactics, be them old or new, are then exported to other countries, both in the region but also beyond our region. So here, when it comes to how the next government will look like, it will reflect the choice and the views, the political preferences of our citizens. I have to say that Moldovans are very clear that the mandate of the next parliament, the mandate of the next government, will be to bring Moldova into the European Union. Therefore, I think there is a feeling of high responsibility on the political parties these days, but there is also a feeling of high risk that these elections can be hijacked. And the risks are not only for Moldova's European future, the risks lie hard also for the future of Russia's war against Ukraine, because Moldova can always be used as a fertile ground to also attack Ukraine from the West. So from this perspective, the main objective of our government, but also of the next government, is to ensure the safety and the security of the border with Ukraine, and to make sure that we have a pro-European government that will work to bring the country into the European Union in the years to come.
You're right. And when we are discussing nowadays about the peace negotiations for Ukraine, we have to keep in mind also the perspective of Republic of Moldova, because the outcome of the peace settlement in Ukraine will also affect the security of Moldova. Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister, for this great insight. And thank you to you all for watching, and stay tuned for more.